Good morning, friends. Good morning. Welcome back. For those of you who went away for Thanksgiving, it is good to be back together here in our sanctuary. I'm Reverend McKinley Sims. I use he, him pronouns, and I am so honored to be the minister of this congregation and to welcome you all here to Unitarian Universalists of Mount Airy. If this is your first time with us, I'll try to explain some things that we do as we go along, but we are so grateful to have your presence here, either here in our physical sanctuary, or if you're joining us online via Zoom or watching us later. It is good to be together. It is cold here in Philadelphia, but I think the heat is on in our sanctuary, so hopefully we're warming up as we come in from the cold. We have a few do's and don'ts here for those that are joining us. If you would take a moment and silence any cell phones that you have, let me make sure I have done that too, so that we can be as present as physically possible today. If this is your first time with us, we have restrooms that are at the rear of the sanctuary, down the stairs to your right, or the handicap accessible lift to your left. We have a story for all ages that is happening in the middle of the service, led by the wonderful Elizabeth Ann Terry. And then we have some religious exploration classes that go on downstairs with Miss Lena and Miss Jill. So children are invited to attend those if you feel moved to do so. We have music from the wonderful Lynn Reeser, who is here to help us with the piano. And we will hear words of wisdom from the wonderful Brenda Ridley, easy for me to say, who will be offering a reflection this morning. Today's service is on presence. Our monthly spiritual theme for December is presence. And we'll look at all the meanings of those words, not just the kind that you might put underneath a tree. So today we talk about what it means to be present when things don't go how you expect them to. And what do we do when bad things happen? We're going to look at these deep questions and explore some wisdom literature today. We invite you to engage as deeply as you are able and to find something that moves you this morning. This is a Unitarian Universalist congregation, which means that we are people of differences, different faith traditions, speak different languages, different ways of moving in the world. We love each other in different ways, and we are people of togetherness who come together under one roof to lift up those things that we do have in common, to talk about the love that is at the center of all of this, and to act with love for transformation, liberation, and healing. If that sounds like a good thing to you, then you are in the right place, and we are so glad that you have joined us this morning. We'd like to start with taking a few simple, deep breaths. So if you will join me now, find your feet flat on the floor, roll your shoulders a little bit, settle in, feel the nice, comfortable wood of those pews. If you're joining us from home, as long as you're not driving, you can close your eyes. And let's take a few nice, easy, deep breaths. In and out. And once more, in and out. Friends, we light our chalice this morning with words that are from an Advent prayer. We are entering the December holiday season, and we celebrate lots of them here. So if you have a candle at home and want to light yours as we light ours here in the sanctuary, do we have anyone who wants to help Brenda light the chalice this morning? You do not have to. We've got help. But if someone would like to come light the chalice. Okay, no problem. We're going to light our chalice here with these words that are in your order of service. Oh, Portia, come on. Come on up. I'm going to ask Brenda and Portia to help us light our chalice here this morning, and I'm going to light our first Advent candle. Advent is a season of waiting, and it is a season of togetherness, so it makes sense. The words to light our chalice and our Advent candle are on the screen. Would you read along with me? In this holiday season, may we find the patience to forgive ourselves, to forgive those who do not do as we wish. May we find patience. May we find wisdom to let be. Thank you, Portia. And thank you, Brenda. Our opening hymn is number 18. It's in the gray hymnal if you'd like to follow along in the hymnal, but the words are on the screen behind me. I invite us to rise in body or in spirit as Lynn leads us with the music for number 18, What Wondrous Love. Seated. Our mission here at UU Mount Airy is to build beloved community by embracing all souls and nurturing wholeness. One of the ways that we do that is through the sharing of our joys and sorrows each week at our Sunday service. So if you are here in the sanctuary and you would like to participate, I invite you to come up by the side aisle and take a second to check in with yourself and say, what am I feeling and experiencing today? What emotions am I holding? Who am I thinking about? Who am I praying for, sending good wishes towards? Where in the world are my thoughts and love being centered this morning? And you can grab a stone, either from this basket up here, or there's one at the rear. And let those stones become infused with whatever you're holding, with whatever prayers or wishes, joys or sorrows you have. And then we invite you to put those stones into the bowl of water that symbolizes this community, helping hold one another through all of what it is to be human. If there's something especially pressing that you would like to share, something that you're feeling or someone you're thinking about, we invite you to speak right into this microphone. It's on. Tell us your name and what you're feeling today or who you're thinking about. And please be mindful that we are streaming to the internet. It's not going everywhere in the internet, but it is not just us here in the sanctuary. We have folks who are joining us online and watching from home. Folks who are joining us online, if you would like to share with the Zoom chat function to lift up your joys and sorrows, please do so, and let us know if you would like it to be shared out loud, and we will drop stones into the bowl on your behalf. Lynn is going to provide us with some contemplative music, and we will take a moment of reverence afterward. So you're invited to come up by the side aisle or simply stay seated, whatever you feel moved to do this morning. Come, whoever you are, the table of joys and sorrows is open.
everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Just briefly, it's December 1st, first Sunday of December in our church, and I find myself missing a certain person, Dot Feely. We lost 5 years ago. And then, of course, when I start thinking of her, I start thinking of all the other people that we lost. But since, especially Christmas time with the holiday bazaar that she ran, and the book sale, and the flea market, and a million other things, I just miss her. But so Dot, wherever you are, I'm thinking of you. Love you, miss you.
Thank you, Rita.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Linda. Happy to be here, happy to see you all. I'm always happy when we make it here. The kids are here as well. I just wanted to share some heaviness in my heart and sorrow, particularly because of the election, but I've just been feeling a lot of uncertainty and anxiety with trying to figure out what we're bracing ourselves for. I've been hearing a lot of speculation. It just feels like it's a question of how bad is it going to be versus anything else, and trying to anticipate that and prepare for that has been really anxiety provoking. So I'm just sending myself love as well as anybody else who's feeling this way. And also sending my brother thoughts and well wishes. He just actually came to the country, 3 months ago, and he's on an H-1B visa. There's, again, a lot of uncertainty. But yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. That stone is for my dad, Robert Pollock. This is the anniversary of his passing. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
I put in a number of stones on this World AIDS Day to remember all the dear ones that I lost during that awful, awful time.
I'm very grateful to be here in this auspicious time. And I would like for you to hold a prayer in your heart for a dear friend who suffered a stroke the night before Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping for speedy recovery. And for the person that, one of the people that I love very, very much, Gary Sobolo, hold him in your heart.
My name is Bruce, and I didn't explain it last time, but Terry Williams is a member of this congregation. He's incarcerated. He had been on death row. Now he's serving life in prison. We've known him for a long time, but it's been a busy semester, so I finally got to visit him in person on Tuesday, and or Wednesday. We had a lovely time together. It was great to see him. He has a hearing coming up January 15th, and we're hoping that he might be able to make progress in getting free. His mind is liberated, and he's thinking about all the things he wants to do in the world, but the system hasn't let him do that yet.
My name is Brenda, and I have two joys to share. One is that I spent some time with my 92-year-old aunt yesterday. A couple months ago, she was not doing well and had been in rehab for quite probably a couple months. But she's at home now. She is clear of mind. Her spirit is good. She's able to walk with her walker now. She was not doing that a couple months ago. And it really was a pleasure to see her. So I'm thinking about her this morning. And I'm also thinking about Barbara Pollock, who is a member of this congregation who had surgery on Monday. She's recuperating at her sister's house. She'll be back in Philadelphia at least by the 9th. Apparently her surgery went well, and so we are sending her, I think, loving wishes to get well soon.
Mm-hmm. Brenda, if you could drop in a stone for Barb Bunkle, who's remembering Ron Soper today. For Janet Mason, who offers a prayer for compassion to circle the earth for all beings. And from Karen Smith, in remembrance of World AIDS Day. Thank you, friends. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. I'm going to pray, and I invite you to join me however that feels comfortable or right to you. Spirit of life, life that is, life that goes beyond us, through us, between us, and amongst us. When we gather together to put love at the center, to help one another through what it is to be human, to be present to each other's joys and sorrows, to remember those who have gone before us, and to lift up those who are in pain or suffering right now. We do our holy work. We do the holy work of being human, of being and doing what we feel called to do, to put more love out into the world, out into the universe. May the love that is centered here stretch beyond these walls. May it reach to all corners of this earth, wherever it is needed, wherever there is war, wherever there is hurt. May it reach to places like Palestine and Syria. May it reach to the places in Philadelphia still struggling with gun violence and poverty violence. May it reach to the corners of Washington, D.C. and Harrisburg and in all those halls of power, to soften the hearts of those given the privilege of leading our people. And may we play our small part in building the world we dream about and bending the moral arc of the universe towards justice and peace. In the name of that great love of all that is holy, we say, blessed be. Amen. Thank you all. Invite Elizabeth Ann Terry forward to either introduce our story or to say a little bit about our story.
Inviting folks of all ages to come up and look at the book as well. I'm Elizabeth Ann Terry, your Director of Religious Exploration. I use the pronouns she, her, and Elizabeth, and so happy to be here with y'all this morning. Here's the book. And if you feel like it, I encourage you to get up and dance. Get up, stand up. Story for all ages. Anybody want to come on up? Okay, Mike. Come on. You can start, Mike.
Can we start our video, Michael?
Thank you.
The real gift can't be wrapped with a bow. The real gift moves like this. Sounds.
Step into a world of wonder at Magical Little Minds. Get ready for fantastic stories that will transport you to extraordinary places. Remember to spread the magic by liking this video and subscribing to our channel.
Get Up, Stand Up, based on the song by Bob Marley. Adapted by Cedella Marley, illustrated by John J. Cabula. When you meet someone talking big and thinking small, and their stinging words push you back against the wall. No matter the silly games that people play, you have hopes and dreams they can't take away. When their words bite, stand up for what's right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Some people need to be the pond's biggest fish. They don't speak the truth and only want their greedy wish. Remember to be true, the best of yourself. Then you'll be a friend to everyone else. Don't just sit tight, be a bright light. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Other people parade around with their noses stuck up in the air. They strut about all puffed up, only thinking for what they care. But if you know the value of what life is worth, you will find your feet firmly planted on the earth. Love with all your might, be true to what is right. Get up, stand up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Be a good neighbor and cherish your sisters and brothers. Practice being kind to yourself and one another. What you give in goodwill shall be returned back to you. Share your truth and compassion. Together, there's much we can do. So now we see the light. We're gonna stand up for our rights. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Thank you for
One
joining
love.
us on this magical reading journey. If you're ready to continue the fun and learn even more, visit our Etsy shop for exciting educational printables. You can count on us to make learning numbers fun and easy with our popular animal jungle themed kids numbers flashcards.
Thank you, friends. And if you would like to join Miss Lena, Miss Jill, and Miss Elizabeth Ann downstairs for religious exploration, I invite you to do so. We have a little song that we sing. We will sing you off to religious exploration. If you'll join us. As you leave this place, know that you belong. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are loved. As you leave this space, know that you belong. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are loved. Thank you, friends. Thank you. We are going to take our offering now, and in your order of service, I threw this at Rita Fitzgerald at the last minute, but next week Rita is going to tell us more about how the Change for Change program is selected, which lots of us who have been here for a long time may or may not know. We thought it'd be nice to share with everyone, but we're going to do that next week. So I'm going to invite Brenda Ridley forward just to do our usual introduction for the offering, and then we will have a video as we pass the plate here in the sanctuary. Brenda, I have words if you need them as well.
Now's the time when we share our offering of both money and music. These resources are for the nurturing of this community. Because we know there are many ways to give back to this congregation, if this is your first time with us, there is no expectation that you give anything other than a yellow contact card that you can find probably in the pew in front of you. back of the pew in front of you, or letting us know how you found us and how we can support you. For those who'd like to give back in other ways, we encourage you to find a way that works for you. Your time and energy are just as valuable to us as dollars and cents. For those who do choose to give financially, your money or check put in the plate for today will be used to fund everyday operations for this congregation. Any pocket change or other money that you designate for change online or by putting them in the white envelopes in the pews will be sent to this month's selected Change for Change organization, the African American Museum of Bucks County. More information about the African American Museum is on the slide behind me. And next week, Rita Fitzgerald from the Justice Committee will talk about how that organization was selected. The plate will now be gratefully accepted, and our offering of music, spoken word, and stillness will be given in return.
Hope for when things go your way and when they don't. All goodness is not lost, there's hope that empathy and love prevail. Looking back on history, the losses and the victories, the trials and errors of humans past. Nothing ever is forever, most things make a turn for better. Love is real and we'll keep pushing on. You're not alone, we're millions of voices strong. With hope, yeah, hope, and hope that your neighbors all in red aren't so hateful, they are just misled. Hope the refugee from down the street finds some solace from the hell she flees. And hope that if you get sick you won't go broke. And hope that if your skin is dark you won't get choked. And hope that our leadership will care. 200,000 dead, he's well aware, but it is what it is. Looking back on history, the losses and the victories, the trials and errors of humans past, we've learned nothing ever is forever, most things make a turn for better. Love is real and we'll keep pushing on. You're not alone, we're millions, voices strong. With hope, yeah,
Friends. We have notes on the song that we just heard for offering. No, go ahead, Brenda, you're up next. That we didn't have time to put into your order of service, but if you would like the notes on that song, Hope, I find them very meaningful. I'm going to put them back here on this table for you to take home with you. And now we turn to Brenda Ridley.
Well, this seems appropriate. Good morning, everybody. I have a short reading by Howard Zinn before I share a reflection with you. This is called Hopefulness in Bad Times. Howard Zinn is a late historian and philosopher. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act and at least the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. So if you're a humanist, agnostic, or atheist, you can't say it's your fault to something in which you don't believe. You can't blame God when things go wrong. So who can you blame, and what do you do? Like many people who worked hard to send Kamala Harris to the White House in January, I was stunned on November 6th when I found out she was defeated. I had just attended a rally for the Harris Waltz campaign 1 week before, where attendees jumped up and down, sang, danced, and chanted as we waited for the keynote by President Barack Obama. On Election Day, I greeted voters and watched them cast their ballots at a school in Kensington. The energy at the polling place was upbeat. New voters and voters who had not cast ballots in years emerged from the booths beaming with pride as they plastered the "I voted" stickers to their chests. I was overcome with emotion, and I still am, and hope that we the people was indeed a reality. The next day, I felt like someone slammed my head into a wall, and I was seeing stars. I was nauseous and hyperventilating when I found a seat on the sofa before I passed out. I couldn't think or talk. All I could do was cry. What bothered me more than my candidate losing the election was the profound disappointment I felt in my fellow human beings. For the life of me, I couldn't understand how a majority of voters could look past the character flaws, racism, misogyny, vindictiveness, hate, the 39 felony convictions, and the bad behavior of a man whose previous term in office inflicted so much suffering on so many people. But this is not a rant about that man. Clearly, I underestimated and misjudged people. I trusted in the goodness of people, and they pulled the rug from underneath my feet. So what happened wasn't God's fault. People made their own decisions in the voting booth. Did the fact that they chose to support someone for president who appeared so flawed mean that Trump's supporters were bad people? So as a humanist who came to humanism from a more traditional religious background, it's a challenge to move beyond ideas of good and bad people while acknowledging that sometimes people behave badly and it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. Conversely, the opposite is also true. People with good intentions are not necessarily good. While I believe we have a propensity toward goodness, we also have tendencies toward badness. By that I mean we can be greedy, cold, selfish, power-hungry, and hateful. We're capable of incredible cruelty to one another, as well as tenderness and compassion. Goodness and badness are not external qualities. They're not some force floating in the air. They both reside in each of us, informing the choices and decisions we make. The Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung talked about human beings having a side of the self that's presented to the world and of which we are mostly conscious. and a shadow side where the less desirable aspect of ourselves reside, and of which we're mostly unaware. Human motivation is driven by both sides. It's easy to forget this duality in ourselves when something goes wrong. Our first impulse is often to blame those people over there and to label them stupid, misguided, haters, racist, and worse. Blame others, people, and sets them apart. Blame makes it easy to dehumanize those who have different perspectives, other ideas, or different ways of moving in the world. Under other circumstances, we can become those people over there who were the cause of this or that problem and deserving of some negative consequence. What do we do with the realization that as humans, we can be in either and both camps? That we can set into motion actions that lead to disastrous outcomes or that benefit the common good? The only thing we can do is accept our humanity, because we will always be in battle with ourselves over these issues. We can celebrate when things go well, and when things go wrong, we can try to understand and challenge ourselves to make things right instead of blaming someone. I wish I could say I had an immediately rational response to the election results, but I didn't. I wasn't ready to hug those voters who made a different choice than I did and still see them as fellow human beings. Instead, I went into mourning. I mourned the loss of the image of America as a beacon to anyone who wants to live in a pluralistic, democratic society. I mourn the loss of opportunities to put more chairs at the table for women, people of color, immigrants, elders, young people, and childless cat ladies. I mourn the lives that might be negatively impacted by the leadership we voted in. And I allowed myself to feel the weight of disappointment in people. Mourning is necessary for making room for something new. So I gave myself to it. And giving myself time to mourn helped me to recall the voices and actions of activists who experienced monumental setbacks in their work and kept moving. People like Dr. Martin Luther King, John Lewis, Shirley Chisholm, Fannie Lou Hamer, and so many others, too numerous to name. They kept moving one step at a time, and for every step forward, they were pushed back one step, but they kept at it until the wheels of social change moved an inch or lurched forward. Slowly, the feelings of disappointment are lifting, and I'm resisting the feelings of fear and despair that are lurking to take its place. The day after the election, I found solace and the beginnings of renewed faith in people when I read an essay by writer and activist Rebecca Solnit, who said, "Finding community and building and strengthening relationships with people you trust and agree with about moral and political issues is important. It will strengthen you and give you people to act with when it's time to act." Solnit's words helped me to see that in the run-up to the election, I found two new communities of people with visions of what this country could be. And I joined them in writing letters and postcards, marching in a parade, knocking on neighbors' doors to urge them to vote. Excuse me. While I could have done any of these activities on my own, it was more fulfilling and much more fun to work alongside a determined array of folks who I might not have met otherwise. My new communities have suffered a setback, but we aren't giving up. We are staying connected and celebrating together. We're taking a short break from the intensity of campaign work and recharging for what some are calling Trump 2.0. The strong and wide-ranging communities all over the country that came together in the last few months give me hope and faith that although change comes in increments and back steps, it does come if we drive it. I've resolved to stay with my communities, doing what I can, when I can, to help drive change. And my hope for you is that you find your community and huddle close, and that you strengthen yourself for the uncertainties that lie ahead. Ashe.
I invite you to stay seated for our next hymn, which is number 1002 in the Teal hymnal. It's called Comfort Me. And we're going to sing all the verses as Lynn leads us on the piano. Number 1002, Comfort Me. The words are also on the screen. Thank you, Brenda, and thank you, Lynn. Friends, let's take one more breath together. There's a word that was in our newsletter called Theodicy that some of you may have heard or you may have seen before. Some of you may know what it means. But if you don't, Theodicy is a fancy word for why bad things happen in the world. My very first ministry job was working at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia as a pediatric chaplain. And lots of my time was spent with families, more so than with the children. But one of my patients was a teenage girl who was a softball player. She played third base, which was my position, and we bonded over that. She was undergoing chemo treatment and waiting on a stem cell transplant. And she felt very self-conscious about losing her hair, and I think a little bit awkward to have a 24-year-old male come into her room and want to talk to her about God or whatever she wanted to talk about. And I loved getting to chat with her. I did not love getting to chat with her family, especially her father, who was a devoutly Catholic man and had a really hard time, understandably, wrestling with what was happening to his daughter. And that was fine, but what was not fine was that he would hijack my visits when I came to see my patient. He would want to talk about his stuff, which is sometimes understandable and sometimes what needs to happen. But his stuff was not about what was happening here in this room. I will never forget that we were talking about the upcoming stem cell transplant. We were going to do a blessing of the stem cells, and we were going to have lots of folks there on our support team. It was going to be a really great thing. She was feeling very positive about it. And he kept interjecting. You know, I just can't understand why we let abortion happen in this country. That's fine. Reasonable people can disagree. I don't know why this is being brought up now. What is happening? He could not engage with the grief. He could not wrestle with the emotion. He could not be present to what was happening in the room, right? He had to find something to blame. And it had to be out there, or it had to be about them. It had to be far away. It had to be remote. At that time, I was in seminary, and I was taking a class on the book of Job. This is in the Hebrew scripture. Some of you may be familiar with it. It is one of my favorite pieces of literature in the entire world, and it is not a fun read. It is not action-packed. It is not happy. It is full of despair and full of suffering. Very briefly, if you're not familiar with the story, it is about a man named Job who lives in the biblical equivalent of a land far, far away. And he is said to be blameless, to live a sinless life. But the figure of God and the figure of someone called the adversary or the advocate make a bet on Job's life, that he would turn his back on his faith and his tradition if bad stuff happened to him. Job had everything in the world. He was rich. He had a big family. He had lots of camels and cattle. And the advocate says to the God character, yeah, but that's just because Job has everything he needs. If you took all that stuff away, he would curse you. He would blame you. And God says, okay, let's make a bet. Do what you need to do, only spare his life. And all these horrible things happen to the character of Job. And the author lifts up that he continues to not blame God. And some more bad things happen to Job. And he continues to not blame God. Job's wife, on the other hand, says, God can get out of here. Turn your back. Curse God. And Job refuses. And then these three friends come into the picture. And the story says, and they came to witness Job's suffering. And they didn't have anything to say. So they sat down and sat with him. That's in chapter 2 or 3. There are 42 chapters in Job. The next 38, 39 chapters are the friends not, in fact, sitting there quietly and witnessing to Job's suffering, but in fact them yapping about why the bad stuff is happening. If you're into that kind of thing, it's very interesting and very informative. But authors believe, or scholars believe, that the original story was that little short story with the bet and the bad things happening and Job refusing to turn his back on God and the friends coming to witness the suffering and sitting there quietly. End of story. The people back then were also wondering, what do we do when bad things happen? They were wrestling with this question of theodicy. How do we make sense of the world in which bad things happen, in which terrible things happen, in which young girls get sick, in which we put felons into the White House, we drop bombs on innocent people? How do we make sense of this? I love this story, and I'll tell you why. Because when I woke up the day after the election, started doom scrolling on my phone, I saw a lot of both grief and refusal to engage with grief, and simply trying to find blame, trying to cast blame, trying to find a reason, trying to answer why. Why did this happen? How did this happen? There can be a humanist explanation. There can be a theistic explanation. I guarantee you people on the quote-unquote other side have a theistic explanation for what's happening. But when I read the book of Job, and I read these 40-some chapters of these three friends talking about why bad things happen, what Job must have done wrong, why the world works the way it does, you get to the end of the story, and the God character, God's self, comes in and says, you three idiots don't know what you're talking about. And God addresses Job. A courtroom scene plays out. And in the end, you never find out why the bad things happen. They never tell you. God doesn't say. Job doesn't say. The author of the story doesn't say. Because remember, the original story was short. Bad things happened. The friends came. There was nothing to say. They simply sat and witnessed to the suffering. They were present to it. When we look at a world where bad things happen, I often find myself trying to answer the same question. I wonder if the wisdom of this wisdom literature from the ancient world is that we don't know. I don't know why bad things happen. I don't believe that those things come from a God. I don't believe that those bad things come from love with a capital L. But maybe. I don't know why we find ourselves in the position we find ourselves now, where we have to start thinking about, will we offer sanctuary to people in our building to prevent them from being taken away from their families? I don't know why we have to prepare for the possibility of more conflict, more political violence. I don't know why we have to prepare for the onslaught of news that will just assault our senses relentlessly in January. I don't know. But what I do know is that there is an antidote for that suffering that is presented in this book of Job. And it is not in the talking. It is not in the casting blame. It's not in the trying to rehash the old problems and figure out why there's evil in the world. Simply to do what the friends do. To come and bear witness. To come and be together. To hold one another. To help each other through this. And then it's what Job does at the very end of the story. It's that rather than trying to blame God anymore, he refuses to give up on his own sense of perfection. Right? He says, I did not do anything wrong, and nothing anyone can say will make me say differently. So it must be God's fault. And the God character comes in with my favorite line from all of ancient scripture. The Job character cries out, why is this bad stuff happening? Why is there evil in the world? Why did it happen to me, someone who did everything right? Why have I found myself here in this position? And the God character answers. Does anybody know what the God character says off the top of their head? No. The Satan is the advocate, the adversary. Linda, do you know? That's in a different place. But immediately after Job says, why does this happen? He's yelling, he's angry, he's frustrated, engaging with his grief. Why do bad things happen? And the God character, this is a play, comes down from on high and says, Job, who are you to question the creator of the hippopotamus? Who are you? Have you seen the crocodile? Who are you? Have you looked up in the stars in the sky? The point is that the world, that nature, that the universe is infinitely complex and beautiful and strange and huge, much more than we can imagine, much more than we physically can imagine. That to simply sit and ask these questions is a never-ending story. We don't know why bad things happen. But take a look around. Look at the wonders that are here in the world. And then look a little bit closer to home. Because the last antidote for what to do with suffering and how do we respond to evil in the world is that Job finds a way to be at peace. He says, bad stuff happens. I don't know why. But I've come to terms with that. And he turns and he looks at his wife, the forgotten character of this story. And the text says that Job's fortunes are restored, that everything that he lost comes back to him, right? What that glosses over is that what Job lost was his family, his children. And you cannot simply replace that. The text immediately glosses over it and says that Job had 10 more children. So imagine what it would be like to be Job's wife. Or to be Job, to come to this understanding that bad stuff happens in the world. We can't always protect the people we love. There are greater forces at work, right? And yet to still make the choice to restart your life, to bring more children into the world, to continue to live in such a place is the bravest, most loving thing there is in the Bible, my friends. I think the point of this story is not just that suffering happens, which it does, and not trying to figure out why, which I don't know, but that what we do in the face of that is we look around, we look up, we take in the world for all that it is, the beauty and the wonder of the hippopotamus, the beauty and the wonder of the stars in the sky, the beauty and the wonder and the horror and the frustration of America. And just say it is. And rather than trying to figure out why, the antidote is to get through it. To get through it with the people you care about and the people who need your support. I don't know how to eliminate all the suffering in the world. I know only two things to be true that I learned in seminary. I don't know how to cure cancer. I don't know how to get a closed-off father to engage with his grief. I don't know how to fix what's coming in January. Because I know only two things to be true. For those who are theists like me, God is God and I am not. So what I need to do is to help get through this suffering, to try and lessen it where we can, to try and get up, stand up where we need to, and to make sure that we endure the bad things that happen, rather than getting stuck and trying to ask why and trying to figure out to escape from it. Because the answer is not out there. It's not far away. Casting blame might feel good, but it does not solve the problem. But if we come together when bad things happen, and we sit together, if we don't have the words, we don't need them. But we come and we hold one another, and we help one another get through it and endure. Maybe that's where we'll find a love at the center of all of this. That is my deep hope. That when we don't know what to say, we'll do. We'll comfort. We'll sing. We'll dance. We'll speak to one another. We'll comfort each other. Oh, my soul. May it be so. Amen. Let's take a moment just to sit with the quiet of these words. Blessed be. Friends, we are coming to the end of our service upstairs. We have coffee hour and fellowship downstairs for those who would like to join us. It's also where the bathrooms are. There are delicious cookies downstairs that I sampled on my way back up when I was getting some tea, so we invite you to stick around for that. If this is your first time with us and you want to ask me some questions on the way out, please do so. I'd love to share more about what is going on in our congregation and some of the very concrete things that we are preparing for January 20th and beyond, and the ways that we're going to help hold one another and comfort each other here in this beloved community. Our friends who are on Zoom, we invite you to stick around for the announcements that are happening afterwards. And board meeting folks, remember that we have a board meeting today. Beautiful. Brenda, will you extinguish our chalice, please? Or were you going to read the words? You read the words, I'll do the chalice. Thank you.
I invite you to listen to these words as Reverend McKinley extinguishes the chalice. As we extinguish this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments, and their love continues to bless the world through us. Now we invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and sing our closing hymn. It's number 1012 in the Teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened.
Thank you, friends. Hear these words and take them with you wherever we go. We are entering the season of Advent, which in the Christian calendar is a time of waiting. So whether we are waiting for something good or waiting for something not, we don't need to wait alone. And we don't need to wait sitting on our hands. Waiting, thank you, waiting does not mean that we are powerless. Waiting does not mean that we are hopeless. And waiting does not mean that we are faithless. So when you leave this place, I hope you take a sense of power. I hope you take a sense of hope. And I hope you take a sense of faith. Whether you're a humanist, theist, or somewhere in between, this is a place that we can come back to and gather, no matter what bad things come, to help hold one another, to endure, to get through it, and to, God willing, make a difference where we can. Take that love with you. That love is at the center of all of this, and may it be at the center of all of this. Amen. Have a great week, friends. We'll see you next week.
Love is this that gives my heart such peace and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, when I was sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's crown, friends told